Hey pre-cal, I have your notes pulled up for section 1.5 day 2, and you're going to need your graphing calculator for this lesson. So if you need to pause the video, go grab your graphing calculator. That would really be a good idea. So I'm going to start out talking about how when you have data, you can graph it, and what does it look like when you graph it. So sometimes when you're plotting points on a graph, sometimes the points kind of cluster around what looks to be a line. So this looks kind of like a linear pattern, and you can see that the points, as you move right, the points get higher and higher. This one, maybe we could say just a little bit, might sort of have a linear correlation. They might kind of look like a line. They do tend to kind of, as x increases, the points do get a little higher. And then here's like absolutely no correlation. This would be slightly a negative correlation because you can see that as x gets larger, the points get lower. This is a pretty good negative, a better negative correlation. As x increases, the points get lower, the y's are decreasing. And then, my goodness, if you have your data and you graph them and they look like that, that is a really good linear relationship. And notice it would have a negative slope. So negative correlation corresponds with kind of like a negative slope. Positive correlation would more likely correspond with a positive slope. Now, when we do these on our calculator, we're going to plot some points. We're going to input our data as ordered pairs, and we're going to look and see how close of a line do they make. Is it a good correlation? Do they really look really like a line, or are they kind of just all over the place? So not only are we going to view that with our eyes, we're going to ask our calculator to give us a numerical clue as whether or not it's a really good linear representation. And what our calculator is going to do for us is it's going to give us this thing called the correlation coefficient. And your calculator is going to call it R. And if you have a really good linear relationship, whether it's a negative correlation or a positive correlation, your R value, your correlation coefficient, is going to be really close to 1 if they appear to have a positive slope, or negative 1 if they appear to have a negative slope. So the closer your correlation coefficient is to 1, or the absolute value of 1, 1 or negative 1, either one, it's going to mean that it has a really good linear correlation. You can see that the farther away we get from an absolute value of 1, then the worse off the correlation gets. The farther away we get, the worse off the correlation gets. All right, so let's, on our first example, we've got, so apparently somebody did a study from 1992 to 2002 on hourly earnings for production workers in the United States. And so in 1992, the average hourly rate was $10.76. And then you can see in the year 2002 was $14.95. Okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to input this data into your graphing calculator, and then you're going to make an equation. You're going to let your calculator interpret that information and tell us how well it looks. It's going to tell us how close of a line that would come to, I guess. Now, one stipulation is instead of putting 1992 for X and 10.76 for Y and 1994 for X and 11.32 for Y, it tells you, hold on a minute, we're not going to use such huge numbers. Let's let 0 be the year 1990. Therefore, 1992 would be represented with a 2 because it's been 2 years since 1990, 4 years since 1990, and so forth, and so forth. To input the data, you're going to look for your Stat button, and then you're going to choose Edit. Stat button, and then Edit. So I'm going to switch over my screen to my graphing calculator. There we go. I am going to hit Stat, and I'm going to choose option number 1, Edit. What I want to do is I want to take that data from my notes, and I want to put 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 in my X column, or my L1 column, and I want to put those dollar earnings in my Y column, or my L2 column, but right now I have stuff in there. So if I want to just clear out the entire column, watch what I do. I'm going to arrow up to where it says L2. I'm going to hit Clear, and I'm going to hit Enter, and it wipes out everything. If you didn't catch that, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go over to where it says L1, use my arrow buttons, over, up. I'm on L1. I'm going to hit Clear, and I'm going to hit Enter. There we go. Now I can input my data. And before you're finished, look to make sure that you have the same number of data entries in your L1 that you do your L2, and you can see that mine are off by 1. Okay, that's going to totally mess you up if you do that. So it looks like I left something out. I left out a 12 here. There we go. Now, that data is stored in your calculator indefinitely. So until you go back and change them, like type over them or clear them like I just showed you to do, that data is going to be there for quite a while. Okay, so I can quit. I can go back to my calculator. I can do like random math, and anything I do, it doesn't matter. Those numbers are still going to be stored in Stat Edit. Now, I want to show you how to make the linear equation out of the 6 ordered pairs that you just put into your calculator. So, you're going to go back to Stat, do that again. You're going to arrow in this, it says this, hang on. Okay, so I'm in the notes. And keep in mind, you're free to pause the video at any time, copy stuff down. So you're always going to have access to this. So I'm making the equation on my calculator. I've hit Stat. I'm going to arrow over to Calc, and I'm going to do linear regression. And then it tells us what to do right here. So you might want to, again, you might want to pause the video and copy that down. There we go. Back on my graphing calculator. So I'll move Stat, Calculate, and then we want it to calculate a line. We want it to make a linear regression. We want it to take those 6 points that we put in and see if they can make the best line that would go through those points. So that's choice 4, linear regression. And what's cool about this linear regression is it's going to give us an answer. It calls its answer ax plus b, and we know that that's just like an equation of a line. So it's going to give us the information that we need, and for us, it's going to look like mx plus b. My calculator just calls it a and b for some reason. I want my x's to come from L1, That's the column that I put in 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I want my y's to come from L2. That's where I put the dollar amounts. Don't worry about this. Don't worry about this. And let's hit calculate. So down, 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 down. Enter. Okay. Now, here's what you should see. Your screen should say at the top, y equals ax plus b. It's going to tell you what a is. It's going to tell you what b is. And don't worry about this one. It's going to give you your correlation coefficient. This is the number that we hope is really, really close to 1. Your calculator needs to be showing you this number. Mine didn't. So, and I think many of you will not be seeing this number. We're going to fix that right now. So in order to, I've got the A, I've got the B, that's both great. I need it to show me the correlation coefficient. So I'm going to go to second, I'm going to go to catalog. This is an alphabetical listing of like everything my calculator does. And what I want you to do is I want you to turn your diagnostics on. So you can hold down the down arrow button until it gets through A and B and C to D. It's going to take a while. Or right now, as soon as I hit catalog, it's ready for me to give it a letter, like opening up the dictionary. Like I'm going to open up the dictionary right to the words that start with D. So I'm going to type in, where is D? It's right here. I'm going to hit that button. It was ready to accept that green letter. Now I jumped to my dictionary, my catalog of everything my calculator does, words beginning with D. There we go. I want to turn my diagnostics on, so I'm going to hit enter. Here's what your calculator does. It's like, are you sure you want to turn your diagnostics on? Tell it yes. Hit enter. And it says, okay, done. Now, your data is still in there. Those 6 points are still in there. You need to redo your line. So to redo my line, I'm going to go to Stat, Calculate, Linear Regression, go. There we go. So this is what we know as M, our slope. It's what number goes in front of X. This is our y-intercept. And then we're not going to look at R squared. We're going to look at R. And I think that 0.9948 is really close to 1. I think that's a good linear relationship. All right. So up until this point in the notes, this is all like telling you what to do on your calculator, reminders of what to do. You might want to record the time in the video down where this is all showing on the screen so that you can copy it if you haven't done so already. Now I'm going to finish out the problem. So it's part A said write the equation, and I left out something. There we go. So that's what my equation looks like based on the A value and the B value that they gave me. And then part B, what does the slope represent? Okay, so keep in mind slope is the change in Y over the change in X. So it's the, this is saying that Y, the hourly earnings, positive, increase this amount, right? 0.428, we're talking money, so I'm going to talk money. It increases this amount each year. slope represents. Part C asks for the correlation coefficient. So here's what you're looking for. You're looking for, is that decimal, is the absolute value of that decimal. Because remember, positive 1 is good, negative 1 is good. Is the absolute value of that decimal close to 1? Yes, it is. It was like 0.9948. So yes, it is. It's a good fit. And part D says, predict what the hourly is going to be in, when was it? The year 2010. So in the year 2010, remember I don't want to plug in 2010 here. I want to plug in how many years has that been since 1990. So that's what I plug in, and I get approximately $18.24. All right. If you go to do these problems or you get stuck on anything and you're having trouble with your graphing calculator, this is what class time is going to be used for. So make sure to show up in class, whether physically or virtually, with your graphing calculator so that I can come to you and help you make sure that your graphing calculator is set up right, there's no glitches, there's nothing we have to delete or change settings on. I can help you with all of that. So, good luck.